So yesterday on the way here, I asked my friend Jen, I said, what's one of the lessons from the forest that you've learnt? And she said, insignificance, right? There's nothing that'll put you more in your place than going out into nature. Last night I was looking up at the stars. Even though the moon was so bright and clear last night, it was like walking around in sunshine, blue sunshine. Didn't need a torch, it was really lovely. But you can still see some stars. And looking up at the heavens always makes me feel slightly insignificant. Nature doesn't care about you. Right? Doesn't care about your job title. The birds don't care about your problems. The rain doesn't care if you want to get wet or not. The wind doesn't care if you're already cold. And so sometimes being in nature is very instructive, right? It helps to reduce our ego a little bit. Makes us feel a little bit less important somehow, less significant in the world. And this is quite different from how we usually live our life. Usually, we're extremely important, right? We matter. We're in our own movie. And that's why coming into nature can sometimes be quite confronting for us. Suddenly, we're aware of just how little we are, just how small we are, how fragile we are. I was just looking at those words that we came up with yesterday, a beautiful and bizarre poem, up on the wall there. This is like alone. We're alone in the forest, right? We have this sense of our lack of connection to nature sometimes, how ill-suited, how badly we fit in. And we also have a sense, perhaps, a renewed sense of how dependent we are on others. That we're actually not truly alone, that we exist dependent upon others. We exist dependent upon nature, right? You had a lovely breakfast this morning, right? The toast that you ate, it didn't just appear in the world all by itself. That toast is the result of many, many, many layers of dependence. The farmers who tilled the soil and planted the grain, the harvesters, the bakers, the truck drivers, the supermarket attendants, all of these people were involved in making that bread, right? The energy that comes from, that goes into the toaster, all this has to come from somewhere, right? We're completely dependent. We're not isolated, we're not unique, we're not alone, actually. And we are dependent on this nature around us. We need to breathe the air, drink the water, the soil has to be healthy. We have to have it at the right temperature. Too hot, like a bushfire, not good. And so our life is dependent upon these things. So this practice that we're going to do today, the practice of the 4 elements, this starts to unlock a view of ourselves that perhaps we've been resisting, that perhaps we haven't had insight into. And that is that our self also is dependent on many other things. It's not unique, permanent. It's not special, this we, this me, this I. It's dependent on so many other things. And we somehow fix it in a moment in time. We become attached to it. We think that this being here is somehow magically, spontaneously arisen. But actually, our self, this version of self, is an illusion. We are dependent upon so many other things. We're not this singular being that we mistake ourselves for. So think about it. You exist here because your parents' DNA came together. You exist here because of countless meals. Your body is constantly changing. You're not a small baby. You've shed many layers of skin, so much hair. You exist here not as a singular entity, but dependent upon all of those things around you: water, air, food. You borrow these things. They come together, combine together in this body for a short time only. You can't control this body. You can't wish yourselves younger, healthier. And so this is pointing towards this doctrine that is unique to Buddhism, which is not self. It doesn't mean that you don't exist. You're all here, right here now, but we don't exist in the way that we think we exist, that we're somehow permanent, that we're somehow in charge of this body, that we have control. And so Buddhism asks us to look at this version of self and to unlock the true nature of our existence. And the purpose of this is to allow us to understand that our attachment to this idea of self causes suffering. Because when we really look, there's nothing to attach to. Our bodies, our feelings, our perceptions, our choices, even our consciousness are just an illusion. It's like a conjurer's trick. They exist dependent upon causes and conditions. Our bodies have come together because of causes and conditions. It will last for some time, changing, and then it will disappear, it will fall apart. So this is the doctrine of not self. I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but the way that we're going to examine it is through what's called the 4 great elements. And so this is a concept that was around at the time of the Buddha. The 4 great elements are earth, water, heat, and wind or air. Sometimes this word elements is slightly misleading. Element sounds rather fixed, right? Another word that's often used is properties. This is useful because all of these things have different properties that are much more mutable, such as liquid. It's changeable, right? It can go into many different forms. And so these elements are kind of like a simplification of the things in the world, a way that we can kind of categorize things, and a way that we can simplify the complexity of nature outside and also inside our bodies, reduce it to something that's easy to understand, easy to comprehend. And when we do this, we start to see that these things exist within us and outside of us, are borrowed, held only for a short time. They don't belong to us. They aren't truly us. We are not those things. And so this meditation technique of the 4 elements was taught by the Buddha to examine this concept of self, to understand this body. It doesn't exist as we think it does. So what we're going to do in this session is we're going to examine each of those properties, each of those elements individually. And we're going to follow the formula given in the Satipatthana Sutta. So some of you will know this sutta. This is one of the most important teachings in Buddhism. Many of the Vipassana schools and other traditions look at this sutta. This is where we develop mindfulness. This is the 4 focuses or 4 foundations of mindfulness. This is how we start to develop insight into our existence. We look at the body, we look at the feelings, we look at the mind, and we look at phenomena. And this practice of the 4 elements belongs to that examination of the body. At the beginning of that sutta, the Buddha says a person goes to the forest, to the empty places, just as we have done. They sit down cross-legged and they establish mindfulness in front of them. The next stage is they develop breath meditation, in and out breath. They know the breath, right? This is developing that mindfulness based on the breath. Another way of developing mindfulness on the body is becoming aware of the postures that the body is seated in. Standing, sitting, walking, lying down. Another way that we develop mindfulness is to examine the various parts of the body. We see them as slightly repulsive. And the next way mentioned in this sutta is to develop mindfulness based on the 4 elements. After that, there's a cemetery contemplation where we look at the decaying body. And so the Buddha uses deliberately confrontational imagery when he talks about examining the body. When we look at the parts of the body, he says it's like a sack full of different grains. You know, there's some barley, there's some lentils, there's some rice. And we divide the body into smaller and smaller parts. So we get away from this idea of a solid, unique, coherent self. We start to break it down. In the same way with the 4 elements, the imagery that the Buddha uses is a cow cut up into pieces and sold at the crossroads, right? We're the cow. And we divide the body into parts. In this case, we're dividing it into the elements, and we examine the elements individually. And the Buddha says that we should examine it internally. See the element inside our body. Externally. You know, we don't just own these things. They come from elsewhere, right? Outside of us. Other people also have these elements in their body. We're not special, okay? And then we look internally and externally. So we examine the interrelationship between this world out here And this being here, we see how dependent we are, how we borrow these things. We look at the origination of these things and the cessation. These things come from somewhere. They don't last forever. We understand this element, this property. We use it for mindfulness. And we understand this element does not belong to us, is not us. We understand this is not me. This is not mine. This is not myself. And in this way, we get closer to seeing the true nature of this body. In the big picture of Buddhism, the doctrine of not-self doesn't just help us to cling less strongly to the body, doesn't just help us to reduce our ego, but allows us to see into impermanence, into change. It allows us to see suffering. And it helps us understand the big picture of our life and our other lives as well. In Buddhism, we have this concept of rebirth. And so if we can start to unlock this fixed view of self, reducing our desire for bodies, reducing our attachment to form, to self, to clinging to identity view, if we can somehow reduce these things, then it's possible for us to come out of this cycle of suffering, this endless rebirth called samsara. So I understand many of you, perhaps rebirth is a bridge too far. But even if you don't believe in rebirth, you're not sure about this whole suffering in samsara, endless round of rebirth, if you're not sure about that, then it's okay. Just focus on understanding in this life how your attachment to self causes you so much suffering. How this view of me, mine, and I hides the true nature of our existence from you. And so this is what we're going to explore in this guided 4 elements meditation. So we're going to meditate for maybe 40 minutes. So let's take a comfortable posture. Yeah, feel free to move around as the elements are coming at us. Sun pouring into that window. It's nice to have a bit of sunshine until it's not, right? Okay. So let's take a few moments to settle back into our meditation, to find that place of stillness and clarity again. Close your eyes, relax the body. And so we begin our practice of the four properties, the four elements, by becoming aware of the earth element. And we see this in our bodies. Sitting here, the earth element is anything that is hard, solid. Such as your teeth, your bones, your nails, your heels, anything that is hard is the earth element. And so we see these parts of our body, dividing up the body, seeing individual parts, connecting with that hardness. This is the earth element. And it's anything that is soft too, like the softness of the hair on your ears. The softness of your squishy stomach. The softness of your skin. Anything that is hard or soft in this body is the earth element, the earth property. And anything that is smooth, smooth like the roof of your mouth, your eyeballs, smooth like the skin under your arms, anything that is smooth is the earth element. And anything rough, like the ridges on your fingernails, the calluses on your hands or feet. the wrinkles on our face, elbow. This is also earth element. Anything rough or smooth. And anything that is heavy, the weight in your buttocks, that feeling of fullness in your stomach. The heaviness of your hands in your lap. This is the earth element. And anything that is light, like your eyelashes. Or the touch of the cloth on the skin. The feeling of the breath across the nostrils. All these things indicate the earth element. Anything that is hard, soft, rough, smooth, heavy, light. All these things, outside and inside our body, indicate the earth property. And this is how we examine the earth property internally. So see it, feel it, understand this is the earth property in this body. And we can examine the earth element externally. We know that others have this earth element too. We see the hardness of their teeth or hair, softness of their cheek. We understand they too have the earth element. This is not unique to me. And there is earth element all around us. The hardness of the rocks. The softness of a flower petal. The roughness of sand. The smoothness of a pebble. The heaviness of metals. The lightness of a dandelion. All around me is the earth element. And this earth element in me, it comes from outside. The food that is grown in the soil, consumed by me, sustains my body, has helped me grow, keeps me healthy. And I am reliant on that external earth element for my survival. I borrow it, taking in minerals, nutriments. It stays in this body for a short time only. And then it comes out. Does not belong to me. I cannot own it. But without it, I cannot exist. I'll quickly perish. And at the end of my life, this body will return to the earth. There's nothing I can do about it. Why then do I cling so strongly to this idea of me, mine? This earth property. It is not me. It is not mine. It is not myself. And in the same way, we examine the water property, liquid. We see it internally. In this body, we have tears, sweat, spit, phlegm, bile, urine. This is the water property in this body. Anything that is liquid, our blood, the grease on our skin, the synovial fluid, this is the water property. And it has the characteristic of cohesion, binding things together. Our body is mostly water. Held together with water. And we can contemplate the water element externally. We know that others cry, spit, urinate. We know that this water is all around us. In rain, in the rivers and oceans, the dew. There's water externally. It's not unique to me. I borrow this water. It does not belong to me. All the water in this body comes from outside. I drink it. I borrow it for a short time, and it comes out as sweat, as urine. It does not belong to me. But without it, I would quickly perish. And at the end of my life, my body will dry out, become desiccated. Why then? do I cling so strongly to this body, to this idea of me, mine. This water does not belong to me. It is not me. It is not mine. It is not myself. And in the same way, we contemplate the heat element. This body gets hot and cold. We get a fever. Our body heats up. We get a chill, we shiver. There's parts of our body that are warm, our armpits, our groin, and parts that are cold, our fingertips, our ears. And the heat in our body helps us digest our food, changing the food into energy that keeps our body warm. This is the heat element within our body. Anything that is hot or cold. We see this externally also. Other people get hot, they sweat, they shiver. We feel degrees of hotness and coldness all around us. All the warmth in my body is dependent upon an external source of heat. The sun. Feels warm in the sunshine, cool in the shadows, hot during the day, cold at night, warmer in winter, warmer in summer, cooler in winter. This does not belong to me. This is not mine. I borrow it. And at the end of my life, the heat in my body begins to fade until this body becomes cold. Why do I cling so strongly at this body when it is not me, not mine? It is not myself. And lastly, the wind property. The wind is anything moving, pushing, oscillating. We see it internally. The breath coming in, the breath going out. The gases of our body, our burps, our farts, the pushing of blood around the body. This is the air element, the wind element. Pushing, moving. The expansion and contraction of the lungs, stomach. The holding of space in the lungs, the nostrils, esophagus. This is all the wind element. We see it internally and externally. Others breathe, burp, fart. We see it in the movement of the leaves in the trees, from the breeze, in storms and hurricanes. The air around us, our atmosphere. We breathe it in. We take it from outside. We hold it in this body for a short time only. It comes out. Without it, I will quickly perish. And at the end of my life, I'll take one deep breath in, one breath out, and I won't breathe in again. Does not belong to me. It is not me. It is not mine. It is not myself. So for the next few minutes, examining these elements in your body, internally, externally, and seeing the relationship between internal and external, where they come from, how they cease, understanding there is just this element, these properties. And seeing a different version of yourself, one that is dependent, the earth element, anything that is hard, soft, rough, smooth, heavy, light. The water element, anything that is liquid, flowing, that helps cohere, bind. the heat element. Anything hot or cold or in between. The fire of our digestion system. And the wind element. Pushing, moving, oscillating, and inflating, holding space. These do not belong to us. They are borrowed. They are not me, not mine, not myself.